Well, hello everybody. Welcome back to Only Leeds Bros. Hope everybody is doing well as you can be. Good bit to get into in this video. We're going to speak about obviously Leeds losing the race for Igor Paixão. We're going to talk about Isaac Schmidt. We're going to talk about Mateo Joseph, and then we're going to talk about then a couple of alternatives to Igor Paixão as well, because we're going to finish saying his name now, Dylan, after this, aren't we? We're going to bury his name, bury the hatchet, and forget all about it. Before we do get into the video, guys, if you can, please don't forget to slap a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. That would be absolutely fantastic. We're only a couple of subscribers away from 3,400, and it'd be absolutely great to get there. So again, thanks very much for supporting the channel. Dylan, what is happening?
Monday again. How do I look? Put it that way. How do I look?
You look great.
I'm a defeated man. I'm just the day itself. I just want this week away from me because I'm off next week for a full week. So that's where I am. But other than that, now let down with the Paixão deal. That's the last time I mentioned his name. Done, dusted, go on off to Marseille and see you later. Good luck. But yeah, apart from Lucas Perry as well. Because I didn't get to speak to him.
In fairness, Dylan, you actually didn't get to speak about Lucas Perry because obviously Saturday you were flying home to try and make the live and you didn't. But we will get into it, Dylan. We'll get your thoughts on all that as well. But before we do, we'll say hello to a couple of the people that are in the chat who we got with us here tonight. We've got Ian Ward says, not everybody is made for Leeds United. Paixão obviously didn't have the minerals. I only want players that will run through walls for the cause. We move on. Yeah. It's perfectly said, Dylan, isn't it? 100%. I did do a poll as well before this. I set it up earlier on. Will Leeds get Paixão? And the overriding was, I think it was 90% to 10. Obviously, the 10 earlier on saying that we wouldn't get him anyway. But look, it is what it is, guys. We move on and we get on to the next target. Chuffed a bit so far. The 49ers are doing what they said they would. Quality signings who want to play for Leeds United. That's it, Dylan, isn't it? That's what we want. Players who want to be here. We'll get more in depth about the Igor Paixão situation. As always, guys, make sure you're getting your thoughts in the comments below. I would love to hear all your guys' thoughts on this one as well. So make sure you're getting your thoughts in the comments below. Paul Brennan says, big season for Joe Peru to come. He's been playing well. There's a positive vibe around Elland Road. More signings to come. And I love the positivity, Paul. That's it, Dylan, isn't it? You just have to be positive now with this situation. Danny's here as well. Says, smash a like and subscribe. Please do so. We've got Gavin James in the evening, buddy. Thanks for popping in. We've got the Welsh Wizard, Jam. Says, evening, boyos, and to the chat as well. Thanks, buddy. We've got Amy here as well. Carl here said, so good about Paixão. Well, we did what we could. We move on to players that want to play for us. MOT, that's right. We've got Michael Pollard with us as well. Evening, Darren and Dillo. Evening, Paul. Arthur's here as well. Callum's with us. Inky. Loads of people in the building, guys. So thanks very much for joining us on Monday night's live stream. But Dylan, look, we'll dive straight into Paixão, and then, as I said, then we'll park it and we won't say his name ever again. I'll go first, and I don't know if Jammy's in the chat here, but obviously I did a live on Saturday when we signed Lucas Perry. We got the news that Leeds went straight back in with a second bid. When you put two and two together, it felt like it was very close. Jammy asked me a question, percentage-wise, what are you feeling? Do you think Leeds will get Paixão? I said 70-30. I was sure, Dylan, we were going to get this one done. Then yesterday we get the news, then bit of a leak that Marseille were going to come in with a final bid, and the alarm bells went ringing for me. Something kind of went amiss here, and then obviously we get the news then today from Fabrice Hawkins, who was actually very reliable during this whole process of Igor Paixão, gave us the bad news that he is going to be going to Marseille. We spoke about him for weeks, Dylan. It's a player that we all wanted as Leeds fans. Initially, how did you feel? And then to kind of now, what's your kind of mindset going forward?
Initially, because look, straight off the bat, he's Brazilian. Any kind of Brazilian with that kind of talent and that kind of flair, and wanted to step it up to the big leagues. You kind of know they're going to be something special. That kind of bit of stardust, as you would keep saying. But yeah, look, I thought it was going to happen. Just for the simple reason was the 49ers were making serious moves. Everything was hush-hush. And they were just pulling transfers left, right and centre. So I genuinely thought they were going to get it done. Then, just for a split second, the other day, I was going, this isn't going to happen. It's gone very laxy-daisy and slow moving and sort of stuff. Yeah. But then you kind of just get on with it, hoping that you'll see someone post something up on Twitter to indicate some sort of news that he was going to, or if the likes of Danny there's a flight coming in from such and such, you just never know. But then, yeah, look, I am disappointed, but like as everyone, I agree with everyone else in the chat there. I'm not going to beat myself up over it. You know, players come and go, and at the end of the day, he never put a Leeds jersey on. So why am I going to be? You know, I do feel to a certain degree that we miss out. But there's other great talent out there as well.
I think it feels like, Dylan, like I'm always of the opinion that no matter who puts on that Leeds United shirt, they're never going to be bigger than the football club. And we've had some great players leave this football club. You know, your Rafinha, your Pablo Hernandez, players that we think fondly of. And this is a player that I thought would have filled that, that kind of category as well, a player that was going to come and do really well for Leeds United. But as you said, he never got the chance or the opportunity to wear that white shirt, probably of fault of his own. And it's for me, Dylan, I think because the circus that's been around it over the last couple of weeks, it feels like we've wasted a little bit of time, doesn't it, over 2 weeks. We obviously, initially heard he was going to Marseille. Leeds were completely out of it. Then they hit a roadblock. Leeds were back in. We were the front runners. Looked like we were going to sign him. And then again, at the last minute, it's like the carpet's pulled out from under us and they go get Paixao. And we kind of have to go back to the drawing board. But it feels a little bit different this time, dealing with Adam Underwood and the 49ers, where under the previous regime and Radrazani, Kinnear, it always felt like we were really trying to do it on the cheap. And, it always kind of felt like the excuse was, oh, well, we tried to go from, but this time we could see the money that Leeds have been putting out to try and get these players, i.e. Muniz for 32 million, reported 25 million plus for Paixao as well. So Leeds, we aren't doing it on the cheap, but unfortunately, if they look at it from the player's point of view, obviously he has no affiliation and no link to Leeds United. He's a player, from Brazil, played in the Dutch league, and he's looking at two options. One, go to a newly promoted Premier League club that, by all objectives, are going to be fighting a relegation battle, or do I go to Marseille, who I agree with a lot of people in the chat that it's a Farmers League, but it's Champions League football under Roberto De Zerbi, and we know De Zerbi is very good at improving wingers as well. So I can understand why Paixao done it, but it still doesn't kind of take away from me the feeling of we've wasted time the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, quite possibly. But look, I was going to say exactly what Jam said there. Just like one player itself, I think every player that the 49ers have went off, Sean Longstaff, Paixao, Borneo, like everyone, even down to Lucas Perry, like they've delivered. They've done what they said they were going to do with its speculation and rumours and all that. It's been done. They got players in, so I'm not going to hold me hat on one player, regardless how good he is or how flawless he is. At the end of the day, this is a team club for us to stay up. Yeah, look, exactly. They're rubbish. You're dead right, Jam. I completely agree. No, but there's other players to look at, and the players that they've brought in, they've made moves. I can't fault them with that. At the end of the day, Marseille just were trying to get it on the cheap or trying to just be sneaky about it. When they see Leeds starting to make moves, then they just more or less buckled and had to just do it there and then. But I'm not going to hold me hat on it. I don't even want to talk about him. He's not here. It is what it is. We let him go. I hope we wish him all the best with his career, but he missed out. Missed out playing for the best club.
Yeah, 100%. Dylan, as I said, from our point of view as fans, it's kind of his loss, and you can obviously see the pull of the Champions League, the French League. We know isn't a great league. The Premier League, by all of our opinions, obviously supporting a club that's in it is, the best league in the world where you really want to test yourself. So, as you said, look, it's 6 of one, half a dozen the other. Ultimately, he's made his decision, and we move on now. And it's like what Stephen Bourne says here. Let's hope the next one is hush hush, because we can't go through another transfer saga like this. I hope it's nice and quick. We get it done nice and early. We have a few players here that we can speak about that are potentials that Leeds United could go for. They aren't links, but potentials. And if you guys have anyone that you think Leeds United should go for, or players that you think might suit this style of play, by all means, stick them in the chat, and we'll have a look at them and maybe put them in the next video as well. But that's essentially where Leeds are at now, Dylan. And look, we know Paixao was the number one target, but we know with the 49ers, we've seen with Habib Diarra when we weren't willing to pay the money that they wanted. Sunderland obviously came in and took him out from under our feet. So we've had this kind of knockback before when we've gone in for a player, and ultimately then we've went and we've got Stack and Lucas Perry. So I can't see this being a stumbling block to the 49ers. They'll just dust themselves down, get up and go again and look to the next one, won't they?
It was definitely the only man that they had in for that position. There's definitely other players they've certainly been looking at. Obviously, we don't know them yet. Over the next couple of days, we might start to see a few links because of the Paixao deal that's fallen down. But they're going to move in silence. I like the way they move in silence. I certainly like the fact of just everything on the hush-hush. At the end of the day, who's to say that we're not the ones, myself and you or any content creators or even people on Twitter, etc., have ruined this deal because we've been talking about it for so much. So, to be fair, the club could be like, lads, will you just give it a rest? Just give it a rest. But, like, at the end of the day, there's other players to be looked at.
Michael Pollard says here, Paixao options, do we concentrate on a top tier number 10? We are all quite stacked on the wings with our full backs that can attack too. About the number 10, I'm not too sure if that's the style of play we're going to be going for in this window, to be honest with you, Michael. I'll just pull the comment back up there. I think it is going to be 4-3-3 next season, and I think it'll be more of a box-to-box 8 rather than an out-and-out number 10. It could be completely wrong, but it's just a hunch that I have. Maybe if we get all our targets in and then towards the tail end of the window, possibly we still have 3 loan spots. You could go in for a Buendia maybe to fill that loan spot. So who knows? Look, at today is the prime example, Dylan, to say is that transfer windows and transfer markets are just absolutely crazy. You just never know what the next twist is, do you?
Not at all. Like, it's... You might see we linked with someone that we completely never heard of, or someone that we know so well, and we all hyped up saying, just as well have a jail deal didn't go through. So you never know, lads. At the end of the day, it's ups and downs, just like our club. And I'm firmly in trust of the 49ers. And that's where I am at the end of the day. You know, a few weeks ago, if you watched, I was giving out left, right and centre, saying, it's gone dead in the water. Then they pulled out Sean Longstaff. Then they pulled out, well, now Lucas Perry. So they're making moves. So I'm not going to hold me hat on one player, as Jam said there. I'm not going to let it bring me mood down. But definitely get someone quick in my eyes, because I just want to see them for the pre-season game in Dublin.
Yeah, me too. I'd like to get it done. So hopefully we move quick, and hopefully I'm trying to be positive now. So hopefully then, we still have a bit of a week to go. Hopefully by the time it hits Friday, we have a winger in the door and we're sorted, and we can kind of move on then from there. We don't want it to kind of stall our transfer window. Not that was so much better on the left. Move them over and get back away from Strasbourg, and then a 9, and then it's looking tasty. And that's it. So I put together a little bit slides of 2 different types of players that Leeds could possibly go for. And obviously Bakawa is in there as well. Now look, at these are potential. There's no links to these. These are just names. I think it was Baron Cross mentioned a couple of weeks ago are on the short list as well. He looks like a decent player as well. Bakawa can play multiple positions. We know on Daniel Fark, Dylan, that he does like that style of player that can cover 2 positions. He can cover multiple. He's predominantly a right wing back, can play very much on the right wing, and has played that number 10 attacking midfielder position as well. 22. Decent player, 66 appearances, 11 GNA, which isn't the best, but as he's still very young, he's got a lot of potential. The player Leeds United could possibly look at.
Yeah, it's definitely a shout. At the end of the day, young, as you said, French. The GNA could be a little bit better, but yeah, he's young. Market value is not too bad at 22.4. Considering we were going to pay up to 40 for Paixao. Now I know Paixao's stats are a little bit better, but who's to say that this man isn't going to dominate? You just don't know, lads, until they get the boots on and wear the jersey. Then it's all the hype of chemistry with the lads. And
Stephen's saying here that we're linked to Johnny Rowe, and Stephen does be one that does keep up to date on Twitter. So we know Johnny Rowe. We were linked to him a lot last season. Obviously, again, that one was one that fell through. Johnny Rowe, we know, a young player, very good player in the championship for Norwich City as well. But this is it, Dylan. We're going to find out now over the next couple of days what is the alternative. We've heard at the same level. That's what we've been promised, at the same level. So we just have to see how it goes, isn't it? And kind of just park this one and put it to bed, as much as it kind of stings a bit, doesn't it?
It's going to sting today. It's definitely stinging me all day. When I seen it on Twitter, I was kind of raging. I'm not going to lie, but it's no point in me sitting here and feeling sorry for myself. I have to pick myself up and go on as much as everyone else does. At the end of the day, it's just a player that didn't want to play for Leeds, and let him be. We're going to have another hero.
Look what Michael Pollard says here, Dylan. Still pleased with the window so far. We don't have to suffer Melier rolling studs on the ball, turning me into a bag of nerves. But basically in that, Dylan, is that this doesn't define the window. It's been a very good window up to date so far, hasn't it? Look, we spoke about it multiple times on the situation with Stack. It was a player that we didn't think we would get in. Obviously, we have Lucas Perry now, a very, very assured goalkeeper. Looks brilliant on paper as well. So the window probably at the moment has been like an 8 out of 10. If we got Paixao, would have brought it up to a 10 and it would have been fantastic. But this doesn't define the window. Just doesn't make it a bad window for Leeds United. We're still in a very good position, and we're still building nicely.
But it was to say, like, if they were willing to pay that amount of money, it was to say that we can spend that little bit more on him, potentially probably a better known left winger, if that's what you want to say, or utility player, as some people would say. But no, it doesn't define us at all. The window's still far from over. I'm not too worried about it. I'd like to see a few names. I know you have Baca there, but there's going to be other names that's going to be linked to us.
Yeah.
And then we're all going to be getting hyped over that and might be let down. We might not be. Take it with a pinch of salt and we'll see how it goes. But at least there's money to be spent. That's the main thing. And they're willing to spend what they need to spend to get a good player in. So you have to trust.
Give Ryan Kent the bell there, yeah. See if he's up for it. Dillo, have you got the stabilisers ready for the bike ride? Good luck to you both. Yeah, we actually weren't going to bring it up, but fair play to you, Danny. So myself and Dylan this Saturday, many as you may know, a couple of the new subscribers, Dad passed away in April this year from heart disease. Sorry, bring down the mood. But myself and Dylan are doing a 60k cycle from Dylan's house, and obviously 60 kilometres down to obviously where my dad is buried this Saturday. We're doing it in his memory and then in aid of the Irish Heart Foundation, as my dad passed away from a heart attack and that. So we're doing a bit of fundraiser. We've raised over, I think it's 1,100, Dylan, we've raised already. So really looking forward to that on the weekend. And let's guys, we might document it as well and throw it up and throw it together. Obviously it won't be very Leeds kind of strand. We're wearing Leeds colour tops and it'll be Leeds balloons let off and stuff like that as well. But let us know if you'd like us to kind of document it and put it up and let us know how we get on the day.
See me struggling.
Be funny though. Seamus Durkin says, good evening, bros. I'm enjoying the stream. Thanks very much, pal. And if you are enjoying the stream, lads, please don't forget to slap a like on the video. It would be greatly appreciated. Another one, Dylan, that I've had a look at as well that I think could be a decent one, and this one that probably gives me a little bit more than the back of one, is Armad Lorente, whatever way you want to say it. He is from Sassuolo. He's a left winger, but is right footed. So again, a similar type of play of Paixao and Solomon, what we've been looking at, can come in on that right hand side. He's quick, 26 years of age, 102 appearances for Sassuolo and 31 G&A. This is potential again, guys. No credible links here, but again, it just shows, Dylan, that there is players out there. Now, he has played in Serie B, so not the top level in Italy. So again, you could kind of push that against it. This season, he has scored 18 goals and 8 assists as well. So the stats aren't too bad. But on the other side of that as well, then you have to look, can he take that step up from Serie B, up to the Premier League? But there is options there that Leeds can go after.
Yeah, definitely, man. 26 years of age now, it's not bad either. Like, the current market value of 14 million. At the end of the day, I'm a firm believer it'll be down to Fark. And if he's seen him play or if he's more or less watched him look, he's on the radar. If the name is popping up like that, he's definitely on the radar. Obviously, Paixao was the main man and the main target, but other than that, we move on. Yeah, look, at the end of the day, I think anyone with a bit of flair, speed, and cutting on the right hand side will do great things.
Yeah, and that, look, it's just the potential, Dylan. So, as I said, look, they're just two options. Obviously, try and soften the blow that Leeds could potentially look at. We'll keep an eye on it. Leeds mightn't go anywhere near these, but again, it's one of them, Dylan, that we'll have to keep a keen eye on and see how it goes. Let's move on. Let's park it. Let's not ever speak the name of Igor Paixão again, and we'll keep an eye on his career and see where he goes after this. Let's talk about a bit of news, Dylan, that we got today of outgoings, because it's something that we have spoke about on Only Leeds Bros over the last couple of weeks, is that it's been very slow going the other way. We've talked about players that could potentially go. This is one player, Dylan, for me, I'm a little bit surprised with. In Isaac Schmidt, we hear today that Werder Breman have put in a loan bid that has been agreed with, in principle, for him to go there on loan. It isn't clear yet if it is going to be an obligation to buy or an option to buy, or if it's going to be a straight up loan. But Dylan, what have you made of this? Because you've been, again, probably like most Leeds fans, a little bit confused with the Isaac Smith situation. We didn't see him playing much last season towards the tail end, and we seen him coming on ahead of Ramazani. Bit of a weird one.
Weird for me, because I think every time I've seen Schmidt come on, I thought he looked well. I thought he looked sharp. I thought he looked at it. Now, at the end of the day, I don't see these players train week in, week out. Fark does, so you're obviously seeing something of the reason why sometimes he didn't even make the bench. But as I said, every time that I seen him come on, he did look that kind of spark. He looked flair. Sometimes he got caught going back, but definitely going forward, he looked at it. But then, there was times there, I think, he was playing Max Bober, playing left back, and Isaac Smith sitting there, and him a left back. So, I don't know, but I did see a tweet, I think, during the season that supposedly Fark didn't really want him. Don't know how true that is. Don't know, take it with a pinch of salt. But Fark didn't actually get him in. I think this is from, what do you call him? Orta, originally. Look, at the end of the day, he's young. I'm a bit surprised, because we didn't get to see him actually play to his full potential. We don't know. And I think he could do a job, but yet again, I don't see him playing week in, week out. And if he does go as well, we're going to need to cover our left back as well. You can't expect Sam Byram to do everything.
That's what it even felt like with me, Dylan. Even with Smith being here, I still felt like we needed cover in the full back position. So for me now, I feel like we need two in the full back position from 100%. Obviously what we heard. Fark is said now that he's reluctant to let him go until he finds cover in the full back position. Like, I don't think that would have been good enough to have Gudmundsson, Bogle and then Byram and then Smith then to cover both sides. We do need a Smith-esque type of player that can cover both of them positions. But I just, as I said, like, look at Shane says it here, he hasn't got a good run, to be fair to him. Like, we can't knock him, we haven't seen him, but I think there's a reason for that as well. We heard Fark at the start of the season saying that he wasn't really kind of showing it in training. Then it kind of switched. The same thing happened to Ramazani, and then he was getting on ahead of Ramazani playing that winger sort of role that he used to play for St. Gallen. So yeah, look, it feels like a bit of a pity, Dylan, with this one. But look, as I said, like, he didn't get a good run in the Championship. Would he take the step up to the Premier League? I'm not too sure. But it could be just one of them situations where it's just let the boy go play. He's only 25, so a year mightn't be too bad. See how he gets on in the German League. If he can kind of, pull it together, possibly come back and be part of Leeds United's plans, or hopefully decent enough where we can get a decent fee for him as well. But it feels like probably the only one that the 49ers have brought in that you can kind of say that was a bit of a fail, that one.
More or less. But look, as you said, Darren, we didn't get to see him to his full potential. And he used to say, like, a year loan might really sort him out. He could come back and be absolutely phenomenal. At the end of the day, you look at Firpo's first year in the Premier League, he was absolutely terrible week in, week out. I know it's the Premier League, I get that, but then Firpo really worked hard, and look, everyone, he got a sound song, everyone loved him, and let's be honest, I was anyway. I was kind of sad to see him go. We seen on the parade at the bus, he was roaring and shouting at Prague to send him the contract. They didn't. They obviously wanted to go different options, and I get that at the end of the day. But to bring in one left back and potentially, we definitely got rid of one, but now on the verge of losing two, you're going to start, like, we said it for the last couple of weeks, we seem to start at the back, move our way up the field with signings, and now with him going, you're definitely going to need another bit of cover there as well, because I just don't see, as much as I love him, I can't see Sam Byram doing a whole lot this year.
Yeah, especially if one of the other boys get injured, Dylan, or any sort of suspension. Like, we seen him for a bit last season. He did have to fill in that left back position when Firpo was injured and now suspended, and then he covered one or two games, I think, for when Bogle was injured as well. And I don't want to fully rely on Sam Byram. So you're 100% right. I think that's the position now that stands out like a sore thumb for me, that we do need a little bit of cover in there. Look, there's been names spouted about that Leeds United could potentially go after. Tanganga is in there as well. Tomiyasu of Arsenal. I don't know how gettable that will be, but there definitely will be fullbacks out there. James Justin as well is another one that Leeds could go for as well. So again, a little bit like the winger, Simicast, yeah. Joe Blackburn told us that was done, so we're still waiting for that one to be announced. But yeah, look, as you said, look, it's going to be interesting to see what way it goes over the next couple of weeks. I think this week for Leeds United is very important to see where we go now from here, how we kind of react to this kind of kickback from Paixao, and we need to really push on and, like, show fans, right, what point we can move on and get the next one.
I think they'll advance fairly quickly with this one. Being honest with you, I think within the next day or two, we will see a name pop up straight away, and it'll come the weekend or come next week sometime. There could potentially be a post, I just like if they were that eager to go after Paixao, especially for that kind of money, they would. Look, they're businessmen at the end of the day. They would have had a backup, the next name to come in. So, hopefully now, within the next day or two, we will see that.
Yeah. Kevin says here as well, not surprised he wants game time to get in the Switzerland World Cup team. And again, Dylan, you can't fault the players, the fringe players like him, and even Joseph, look, he hasn't gone about the right way, but you don't blame him saying, look, I want to go play football at the young age that he's at as well. So look, best of luck to him again. We'll hopefully now over the next day or two get the full kind of details of what this means for Isaac Schmidt. Is it going to be a loan with an obligation or an option to buy, and that's probably the last time you see him play for Leeds, or is it going to be a straight up loan, go do your thing for a year and see what happens? So yeah, again, look, it's going to be interesting to see how that one gets on. Stephen Bourne says, no issue with Smith going as long as we replace him. We couldn't get time in the Championship. He isn't the answer in the Prem. That's the nail on the head, that, Dylan, isn't it?
More or less, if we didn't play him in the Championship, they far clearly didn't rate him. I understand that, I do. Then you're looking at it from the other side. Firpo, to me, was on fire. You know, you had all these players that were just too good to take off. I know that sounds probably a little bit harsh, but I agree with Stephen, what he said there. You know, he didn't get into the team. It's simple as. You know, and then even at times when we did need him, he was replaced by Ober, who was playing left back, which is madness, but there's obviously something there that Fark doesn't rate him, or there's a breakdown somewhere.
There's something, yeah, something that he's not at the required level. Gavin James says here, we need a left back and a right back. Even in pre-season games, you can see once they start to come on that we are wide left. Open in competition isn't at the level. So, yeah, I'd agree with that. So, yeah, be interested to see what direction they're going to go with that one. Smith gone to the same team as Vober. Yeah, and that could potentially be the pull there as well. Michael Pollard says, Smith seems unfair. I doubt we'd ever seen Tanaka or Rotwell if it wasn't for Amson Gruev's injuries. Who can we sign to effectively sit out on the season? Yeah, waiting. And that's it, Dylan. It's actually a good point as well from Michael as well, because we probably wouldn't have seen Rotwell and Tanaka very early on last season if it wasn't for the injuries of Ampadu and Gruev, and obviously gave them their chance. And similar, if something had happened in the full-back position to Vober or Firpo a little bit earlier on, you could have seen Smith come in there and potentially maybe take this short. And look, it was obviously just harder for him to get into the team, wasn't it?
Definitely, but like me and you, I banging this drum all the time. There's nothing more that I want than to see Leeds play week in, week out, and every player, including the bench, including the youths, fighting and competition to get into this team, including Harry Gray. That's what you want. You want that kind of hunger and desire for lads to get in and to fight and to stay in the Premier League. Clearly Schmidt is one of them.
Yeah, I think so though. World Cups to seem to come around a lot faster than I did as a kid, don't they, Jamie? Yeah, I actually had this conversation with a lad in work a couple of weeks ago as well, and it always felt like when the World Cup ended when you were a kid, you were like, 4 years now, I have to wait till the next World Cup. But as you said, the older you get, all of a sudden it's qualifications, and then all of a sudden it's around the corner. We wouldn't know much about that. Obviously, being Irish, there's not very many World Cups or competitions or even football matches that we win in general, so we don't really have an issue with that one, Dylan, do we?
No.
Again, Dylan, Robertson Clark says here, what about a 10? What's your take? I've obviously given my thoughts on the 10 position. What's your take on it?
I think from last season, the January window, when potentially we should have got a 10, we didn't. We moved on from it. A lot of people were giving out, including myself. Would we get across the line? We did. And now it's just gone very quiet. If we do play a 10, no disrespect, I don't think Aronson is our answer. It's as simple as that. So I think, you could say Pirro to a certain degree, but you're definitely going to have that kind of mainstream striker that the 49ers are on about in the team. But I don't think, I don't really like Pirro on the 10 either, though. So,
he can do it in the Championship, in the Prem, it won't feel right in the Prem for me.
No, it won't, no.
It doesn't feel right for me. Dylan, right, let's move on. Let's speak about another potential outgoing in Mateo Joseph. We obviously know the situation with him. He wants to go. He wants to play football. Eventually, we have a different club coming in from same La Liga side. Girona have came in. They've put in a loan offer for him. They're not willing to meet the valuation that Leeds United see him at, is around 13-14 million is what's being reported. So this is a straight up loan deal to go there. For me, Dylan, this probably makes all the sense in the world. I'd probably sanction this one now as soon as we can. Let him go out there, let him try and forget about the Mateo Joseph thing for a year and see how he gets on in La Liga. What about you?
It's something that we said, Darren, a few weeks ago. That's all I wanted. I think Mateo Joseph's ceiling is so high. Say week in, week out. I have to repeat myself, but last season, at the start of the season, people were saying he's going to be Championship top goal scorer. We thought that he was going to be the main man for Leeds. Early on in the season, he was scoring 1 or 2 goals. Same with Pirro. The two of them were back and forth. Who was going to grab the shirt? Pirro didn't look back. And then every time Joseph came on, he didn't really make an impact. Let's be honest. He done a few bits here or there, but not up to the standard of Pirro, let's be honest with you. But then now, towards this season, I thought a loan would have been the right answer. Then obviously we heard he didn't go in pre-season. He more or less turn into a little child about it. I understand it to a certain degree, but he is 21, he's young, there's obviously people in his ear. Just go on loan. Just stop trying to push your way out of the club, if that makes sense. We've seen how the Nanto situation went. But yeah, I think a loan is the right way to go. I never wanted to sell him. I only wanted to sell him for the reason of PSR, if that did come to a head.
I would be like that, Dylan. If you seen Betis or Girona or Celta Vigo was a bit of interest as well. If you seen one of them clubs come in and say, right, look at there's your 12, 13 million from, I'd be not happy enough, but I'd say, okay, I can understand the benefits of it. Let's get PSR and let him go. But we've heard, Dylan, over the last couple of weeks that the Spanish clubs are just not willing to trump up that money realistically for an unproven striker in that position. They're going to want that loan with, an option to buy and then take a chance if Leeds do get relegated to get him for a cut price or either potentially on the loan deal and then him to force his move then there next year to see how he gets on. So yeah, look, as you said, I think at the minute this is one that I would accept personally. If I was the club, I'd kind of just get off the books. I don't think we're going to get our valuation from him. And you might get Real Betis coming in again with another stinking offer, probably only 9.5, 10 million, where we're still probably 3 or 4 million off our valuation of him. So yeah, I just don't want to see Leeds being cut short with this one. That would be the last thing. I think that would be a nightmare scenario if we do sell him for less than our valuation. I think that would be the worst outcome for the club. So I'd rather now let him go on a loan, let him go play football for a year, hopefully score a couple of goals, and then next season then get that valuation that we want from him, or potentially work his way back into the team if he's proven enough.
Well, I think everyone wins. You literally just said it there. At the end of the day, if certain clubs aren't willing to pay the exact fee that Leeds want, well, tough luck. It's simple as we move on. Let him go on loan.
We hold the cards.
He's young. Exactly. There's no like need to sell for a PSR reason. If it needs to be done, I don't know. I'm not in the board. Then sell him, but for the right price. And I don't think the 49ers are going to let him go for stupid money. They're going to let him go for the right amount of fee that they need to get the PSR sorted. But I just think a loan is a bit more. It's the right thing to do. He's young. He's a young talent. At the end of the day, let him go play football.
Look at Charlie Cresswell, Dylan. Charlie Cresswell was, for me, still a head scratch. Like, we gave him the number 5 shirt, gave him a new deal. Then we sold him out. He's gone to Toulouse, looked decent there. There's murmurs of Liverpool potentially having a look at him. So it felt like we pulled the trigger on him a little bit too fast for being a young player as well. Don't get me wrong, he didn't, pull up any trees to say, look, I have to be a starter week in, week out. But I'm saying, again, it's a similar situation to Joseph, is that he's still only 21, still has a lot to learn about the game. So it's like, don't pull the trigger on this one too fast if we don't need it. Don't cut ourselves short.
Exactly. Look, at the end of the day, we're a business. At the end of the day, it's all money, a whole lot. We don't want to be that kind of side in the Premier League that just takes gambles and loses out on money. We're not about that anymore. It took us a long time to get to where we are, and we don't need to throw it all out the window now just from, let's be honest, a naive 21-year-old who has agents in his ear and money in his ear and the whole lot. Fark should have pulled him aside. He probably did, just clearly didn't listen and said, look, I think a loan would probably be the best possibility for you. Last season was his first senior career. I think he done alright, but yet again, he didn't grab it to full potential. But that's because he's young. He's young. He still has miles to go before he gets to his peak of his prime career. So I think a loan would be no harm. It wouldn't do him any harm. If anything's going to make him better. And then, as you said, if next season, if he doesn't fit into our style of play, or we don't need him, or God forbid a PSR, comes up, but then we can go, well, you done well last season. Now we can sell you for the money that we want to sell you for. So it wouldn't be. Yeah. I think a loan is the right option.
Yeah, 100%. Jam says here, Dylan, I know that we're talking about Joseph, but what do you think of Nemetja so far? The reason I ask is because Joseph is further down the pecking order now, I think, and I'd agree with that as well. And I like the look at Nemetja. I think if we can get him fully fit, you could see against Man United he wasn't fully fit, and that's obviously that's going to be obvious. He's coming from, I think he had about 18 months out injured as well, where he had a couple of injury issues at Wolfsburg. But I think it's a decent sign, and he puts himself about. We've seen a goal as well that he scored, getting into the box and scoring them little tap ins. Some people say they're the easy ones, but you still have to be there to put them in. So I like the look at Mateo. I think he offers something, Dylan, a little bit different to what we've had at Leeds United over the last couple of seasons. Looks like a bit of a bully, and how many times, and Danny talks Leeds, how many times last season during watch-alongs have we said in some of them championship games, there's times where we need a bully to come on and, kind of just ruffle up defenders. Bamford tried to do it, but he's just not quite that anymore. So what have you thought in Mateo?
Look, it's too early on, one game. Seen him just a few times. I seen the ball. It was bouncing off him. I thought he was coming deep an awful lot, considering he was the number 9. But it's early on. You can't be judging a book by its cover so quickly. But he scored a goal, obviously, in the other game. Yeah, he looks at it. Like he's always looking for the ball. He's always moving about. I think he'll get up to speed. Do I think he's going to be our main striker? No. Do I think he'll make an impact coming off the bench? 110%. So,
yeah,
you know,
I think he's a good option.
You can only
He's
comment
different.
on what you've seen. Yeah, he's different, exactly. You know, when you have Pirro that can more or less score goals, let's be honest, if he gets a decent chance, 9 times out of 10 it probably will go in. He's a good striker on him, Pirro. Now, Eche, as you said, a bully, scores top ends, you know, and he's a big lad and he can hold up play very well. So, look, only time will tell. We don't know anything yet from these new players. We've only seen them once or twice. None of these new players could start at all. Fark could go out with the same, more or less the same squad as last season. You just don't know. Some lads are flops, some are golden. I think you need to give them a chance. Everyone deserves a chance, that's for sure. To see how it goes. But I'm happy with it at the end of the day. It's another striker in the door.
Titanic Starline says here, what's going on with Paixao? The deal has went down quicker than the Titanic. Let's put it that way. It's over. It's done. It's gone. And then, yeah, the same as well. Buddy waking up in Oz. Yeah, imagine waking up to that news on your phone, Dylan. Robinson Clark says, side before self. That's it, Dylan, isn't it? It's always going to be that Leeds United. And us as Leeds fans, the minimum requirement that we have is go out there and put 100% in the shirt. Liam Cooper, that quote was always going to come up now, probably for as long as we're Leeds fans. If you don't want to be here, you know, go elsewhere and do it. You're not going to want it here, isn't it? Shane Dalton says Cresswell was a ridiculous decision. Yeah, I think so. I just think we pulled the trigger on that one a little bit too fast for me. But look again, look, you know, what do I know? Don't get me started on Cresswell. I just think it was a situation, wasn't it? Obviously, with him and Fark didn't see eye to eye, and then his dad got involved as well, Richard, and then that was it. It was just one of them, wasn't it, Dylan? It was just didn't really seem like it was going to work its way back.
There was Diggs thrown. No money missing. Now it just wasn't one of them. Look, I think Charlie genuinely thought it was his year. I feel bad on him to a certain degree because I think we seen him, Darren, if I'm not mistaken. We were actually over at his first game where he started. Am I right in saying that?
Mm. Yeah, we were.
And then, look, I actually thought he done alright. A few little hiccups, but nothing major, as you would normally do. I think it was a rotation. You know, there's certain lads in there, especially Liam Cooper. I think Liam Cooper was carrying a knock. He looked good, he looked young, he looked agile, and he was a big lad, but it just didn't work out for him, unfortunately, and a bit of a head scratch as well to why we let him go.
Yeah. David Gray says, Joseph, young lad, one good season on loan could double his value. That's probably my thinking. That's the way I'm thinking at the minute as well, Dylan. And if it's not, well, then we can kind of let him go down after that, isn't it?
Exactly.
Stephen says, would you be happy with Solomon back if an option? It's a good question, Dylan, isn't it? And I seen, look, obviously when we got promoted, everyone was like, we need to get Solomon. Then we know he made his decision. He wanted to stay at Spurs. He doesn't look like he's going to be in Spurs' plans. He hasn't played any of the friendly games for him. Look, that could change. But then I seen, obviously, as soon as the Paixao deal breaks down and Solomon's brought back up, it's a section of the face gone, no, I don't want Solomon now, not good enough, feels like we could do better. For me, I feel like that's a bit of a flip-flop mentality, Dylan, because at the start of the window, we're all, you know, in Solomon's a must, and now, because we're fishing in the waters of Paixao, it's like, no, Solomon's not good enough now. What's your thought?
Well, any time a player gets linked with Leeds, first thing I do is look on YouTube at what this player entails. Obviously, you look at their stats, you look at everything. So, with Paixao, don't get me wrong, looked absolutely quality. I've been saying it week in, week out, yeah, I want him. But I know the way Solomon is. And I completely enjoyed Solomon last season. I thought he was phenomenal.
Yeah.
I think it's a no-brainer if a certain player that doesn't want to be here that you haven't seen play. Now, if you watch them types of leagues from different players, go like that's your opinion at the end of the day. But if you've seen Solomon score the winning goal to get us promoted, he was phenomenal. We went missing at times sometimes, but I thought he was brilliant. So at the end of the day, I would definitely look. If it's a possibility to get him back, I would. He's definitely Premier League quality.
Yeah, look, that's it. I like to look at him as well. I just thought it was a bit mad when I seen it on X after. And it probably is a lot to do with people being a little bit kind of hurt, you know what I mean? And emotions are running high at the minute with losing out on the deal of Paixao. But I just thought, yeah, it was a little bit mad that, like, you know, 7 weeks ago, everyone was, in awe of Solomon, that we needed to get him, and we were all kind of heartbroken when we heard that he was staying at Spurs, and that was obviously a big thing at the time. And now all of a sudden it's flip flopped to kind of saying, oh no, he's not good enough to play for Leeds in the Premier League, which I think is a little bit odd. Like, I can't deny, I think if Leeds did get Solomon back towards the tail end of the window, even again on another loan, like, that's one I'd be happy with that, Dylan, because we've seen the magic that he worked last season. He was levels above in the Championship, and the level above the Championship is the Premier League. Again, the question mark is, can he do it for another season? Can he stay fit? Can he improve? Can he take the step up to the Premier League? I think he can. I think you're mental if you're turning your nose up at Solomon. Like, yeah, I'd be saying you're mad.
I'd like, we all wanted him. Well, I did anyway. I genuinely thought Leeds were going to put in a bid for him straight away. Then there was obviously the whole Thomas Frank coming in and everything got rearranged. And, look, could be just talking spoof at the end of the day. He could easily get back into that Tottenham team. I think he was deadly though. I really enjoyed him last season. I thought he was one of our main men week in, week out. So
yeah. And it's like what Shane Dalton says here. No one knew Paixao a couple of weeks ago. It was only bits that we seen. Obviously looking at his stats, looking at his stuff on YouTube as well, that you kind of start to fall in love with him. And then obviously the whole builds and builds and builds, and then we don't have him, then we could potentially get him. But we did all love Solomon Dylan. Like I said, he has a reputation, with the fan base here, scoring that goal, how he played last season. I wouldn't be turning my nose up 100% now.
He has a great tune as well.
Yeah, it's a belter, isn't it? West Ham only getting free players in. I think further up there, Richard says, sorry, but has Charlie Cresswell signed for West Ham? I don't think so, but I didn't see that as of starting the stream. I didn't see that, but maybe there's been a couple of links on Twitter, but I haven't seen it. I did hear Liverpool were potentially looking at him, but I didn't see West Ham. So yeah, if you can confirm that in the chat for us, guys, that would be great. Jam says, I love Manor. You boys know I would bang on in a heartbeat in the chats. We're looking back, to be honest. Yeah, I'm the same as well. I wouldn't be turning my nose up. Stephen Bourne says the same as well. I'd have Solomon back in a heartbeat. I would as well, 100%. Cresswell was never playing last season in front of Rodon and Pascal, so the only reason his value's gone up was when he got the loan to Toulouse, and that's the similar situation, Dylan, isn't it, to Joseph as well? Like, he's not really going to get into this team. If he goes and plays and ups his value, that could be potentially where we're looking at.
100%, 110%. It's competition I want at the end of the day.
Yeah, me too, 100%. Michael says, I thought Solomon was excellent in the Championship. He is Premier League quality. I just think he is very one-dimensional. Every defender in the Premier League knows he's going to cut in on his right foot. Yeah, probably, but, at times, Michael, it's knowing what he's going to do, and another thing is stopping it, Dylan. We've seen that, haven't we, in players as well, that they're going to cut in on the inside, but it's always that dummy that seems to fool you as well, doesn't it? And then potentially you could look at, Somerville, who was our best player 2 years ago, looks like he could step up to the Premier League, and then we've seen at West Ham he hasn't quite done it, but it's always hard to tell, Dylan, isn't it?
Look, the Championship is a different ball game altogether. But like Solomon, not only does he cut into his right, lads, he's a good whip on him. He can put in a good ball as well, and let's be honest, he can't score. I think when getting the match in as well for a bit of height, and then you look at the tower that's in the defence with all the height that we have. You've Stack, you've Paixao, you've Burnow, some serious height. So I think set pieces are definitely going to be crucial this year. And Solomon does have a good whip on him, so potentially it couldn't be a bad idea to get him in, or to get him back, sorry.
Yeah, it would be. Let's go through, see if we have any other comments in the chat here. Shane Dalton says, also folks, and anyone tell me why Harrison is playing pre-season? WTF is going on? Yeah, we've had her say on the Harrison one as well. It's looking as the more it goes on, the more likely Harrison's going to stay here. We obviously seen some funny tweets soon as Paixao broke down. Everyone was, tweeting Harrison and, the blue, yellow and white love hearts and stuff like that. Or, Solomon or Harrison's going to be our winger now. But realistically, Dylan, again, it's a conversation that's going to keep popping up until the club put it to bed, until, Everton either come in from what you have here, that Everton do still hold a little bit of interest in Jack Harrison, whether they're going to be able to come up and pay his money. There was talks that they take him on a free and pay his wages and stuff like that. There's no way in the world they are going to let him go for absolutely nothing, Dylan. But like, obviously his contract that he has left as well, I think it's 80-90 grand that he's on as well. But the Harrison one, Dylan, obviously you were very vocal when he first came back. You were saying, no way, don't want him back in the Leeds shirt. We've seen him now in a couple of the pre-season games, especially against Man United and the two highlights we've seen. Have you softened your thoughts on Harrison?
Anyone that puts a Leeds shirt on, I have to back them. I don't want to back him, but I have to back him. But in the pre-season game, I didn't really think he was all there. He didn't look like the same Harrison we previously had. I want to sell him. I don't really want him here, if I'm being honest with you. And then even just, no, be probably being a bit childish here, but even in the photo that was taken, every other lad is smiling. You look at him and he's just an awful face looking at him. Let's be honest. I'm not oil painting myself now, but I just mean, like, not a smile, not nothing. You know, you want to try and win the fans back over. Hasn't really done that yet. But early days, who knows?
Yeah, I think so as well, 100%. David Gray says here, I'm not convinced with Harrison, but I don't care about the politics. Yeah, and I think you probably have to try and put the politics aside, and I'm trying to, that's what I try and deal with Leeds players, and look at them for a player, a footballer. And we obviously know the tail end of his time at Leeds before we got relegated wasn't great. Hasn't had a very successful loan at Everton. We seen a lot of the tweets from the Everton fans last season about how bad he was, and coming back here, Dylan, it always felt like it was going to be an uphill task for him. But the only thing I will say on it, we haven't got a set piece taker at the minute, and we've seen him during the pre-season games. He's been taking the set pieces for the big lads. We've seen Daniel Farke obviously soften his stance on Willie Nanto's situation when he was trying to force a move. We've seen him soften his situation with Brendan Aronson coming back last season, with Max Vorber coming back last season, and ultimately the decision has come down to Daniel Farke, and it doesn't matter what you think, what I think, or everyone in the chat thinks. It's going to be up to Daniel Farke to make the decision, isn't it?
Exactly. That's what it's all about. I think we all need to get on board here, no matter who puts on a Leeds shirt, whether we like even down to Wober, like last season. We have to back them. It is what it is. We have to get on with it, whether you like them or not. You know, certain players I don't like currently still in the team, but I have to back them. It's just the way that it is. Like, we're all not going to get our way, lads. We follow this club, and we're going to have to put the trust in the owners, in Daniel Farke, for this to move forward. We can't be negative. We can't be giving out about a certain player. Don't get me wrong. If he plays absolutely dirt, then take him off, and you can hound them on Instagram or X or whatever. But I mean, other than that, they're still human at the end of the day. Picking up a wage, a lot of wages, by the way, I must say. But me personally, I'm solely concentrated on the club. I, in the nicest way possible, I couldn't care about players. I know that sounds harsh, but it's the truth. I just learned the hard way. You know, they're just going to jump ship when they see the dollar sign.
Ultimately, that's going to happen, Dylan, isn't it? In the modern game now, once the money comes calling, that's it.
It's hard not to love a player, though. Do you know what I mean? Like me, as you can
of course.
see,
That's it. When you
I love Pero. I love him.
Connor says choosing the French league over the Prem is mental from his own perspective. Yeah, look, it's as I said, it's 6-1, half a dozen of the other. I think obviously the French league itself is no lie. It's very much a farmers' league, is what we've all said. The Premier League is definitely a superior league, but he could be looking at Champions League football under De Zerbi. Can they go far there? De Zerbi always seems to do well with wingers, and then he's probably looking at Leeds United. Yeah, it's a massive pull of the Premier League, but it's a promoted club who potentially are going to be fighting relegation next season. So I'd say that was probably the breaking point, Dylan, for me. That's the only way you can assume that if you're looking at that he's probably seeing Champions League football and says, yeah, look, I'm going there.
Definitely.
There's different, and that's what I'm saying. Look, there was a good few people in the chat saying have Solomon back in a heartbeat, and then there's Rich. So there is difference of opinion in the fan base going from Paixao to Solomon. Feels so
100%.
underwhelming. I seen that a lot, and like I can understand where you're coming from, Rich. But for me, like try and take your thinking back to a couple of weeks ago when everyone was saying we need to get Solomon in, and I think it's probably that thing that we've been fishing in that pond of that talented players. Now everyone feels like Solomon, isn't good enough to play for Leeds United. For me personally, I think it's mad.
I think he is. Definitely. Look, going back to Paixao real quick, it's just I've seen Solomon play. I've seen him last season play. I thought he was brilliant. I thought he was phenomenal. He done the big. He got the goal to get us promoted to make us champions. Sorry. I haven't seen Paixao. It's YouTube. It looks unbelievable, don't get me wrong, but at the end of the day, when you see players week in, week out, it does change. And, it was the same with Solomon, especially with the Burnley slip, and then he got the back injury, and including myself. I thought when he came back from the back injury, he put on a bit of timber. you know, he was out for a long time, kind of saying, we got this loan, it's not really working out. Then all of a sudden, then he just appeared and he was banging in goals and he was setting up a lot of goals as well.
Yeah.
It's just one of them things.
John Pepper says here, Mitrovic would be a good sign. There's 3 quality players. What PSV was asking for, Hamer worth a shot. The thing with Mitrovic is, obviously, it's hard to tell because I don't think we've seen a player come back from the Saudi League. He must be 31-ish, I'm guessing anyway. But coming from the Saudi League, then back to the Premier League. Now, don't get me wrong, Mitrovic in his day in the Championship was an absolute beast, like cheap mode he was in the Championship. We've seen him do good in the Premier League as well. I'm just not too sure if he can kind of come back from the Saudi League to do it in the Premier League. I could be completely wrong there, John. I'd be looking at the likes of Muniz that we've been linked with, Gassand as well. I'd be looking at the players like that potentially. That's my take on it. And then Hamer there as well. We've heard from the club, there's been a couple of leaks from the club that they're not fully focusing on that number 10 position, and Hamer isn't a priority now. But again, who knows towards the tail end of the window, Dylan, if we don't get who we want and we want to flesh the squad a little bit, Hamer could come up, but he doesn't feel like a priority anymore, does he, in the Premier League? Not to me, anyway.
No. Look, if he does play the 10, we've seen it last season, Aronson is going to be the man, or Pirro. And who's to say someone else, a new name, possibly could play that number 10. We just don't know, lads. If Fark works his magic. I actually want the 10 role gone, if I'm being honest with you. Go back to a simple 4-4-2. Dominator. No.
Lump along.
You just don't. Yeah, just lump along. Yeah, you don't know. You don't know what Fark has. And even with the pre-season, whatever way he sets up, that's not the way he's going to set up in the Premier League. He's just testing everything. That's what the man does. But I just want to get players in, get us up to speed, and then we can hit the ground running when the Premier League starts.
Richard Hogan says Solomon also road tested in the Prem, unlike Paixao as well, and that's it. Like Dylan, it's a good point, isn't it? And with that, you're always going to say, well, Paixao hasn't got the opportunity to play in the Premier League. But as I said, I wouldn't be turning my nose up at Solomon. I can understand where people come from that it probably seems a little bit underwhelming, but you kind of just had to bring your thinking back to a couple of weeks ago when we all wanted Solomon when the season was over. It was like, please sign him, Solomon's a must, we must get it done. Then we obviously got the news that he wasn't, to be turning your nose up at him now in a few weeks. I don't think Daniel Farke would turn his nose up at him. I think if tomorrow if Spurs said, right, we'll let Solomon come back to us on another loan, I don't think Farke would be turning around and going, oh no, I don't want Solomon. I think he'd be all over.
100%. With an obligation to buy, and then he has a phenomenal season, then we buy him when we stay up.
Yeah. David Gray says Hamer can play the 8-2 as well. Yeah, he could do it as well, and you'd hope Farke would obviously work his magic with him. Keep Bamford as that a joke. I think the Bamford ship has well and truly sailed. We've had our thoughts on that, and we get through a couple of more of the comments. Jack Grealish is for sale, just staying. Yeah, look, I've seen a couple of people saying that as well, and when I first seen it, I'm like, nah, no chance. But then it's a little bit kind of when you sit down and think about it, could it be potentially a way of getting his career back on track? He obviously needs to have the right attitude, Dylan, doesn't he, Jack Grealish, if it's going to be on a loan? I think the wage bill would. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, he'd need to definitely change that attitude. And the wage bill that he'd carry, that packet that he'd bring coming to Leeds would be, I think that'd be a deal breaker for me. But I get where Stephen's coming from. Don't get me wrong, I'd like him, but at Leeds, I'm not too sure what would happen, if it's even likely.
I don't really like him, full stop. Never being honest with you. I think you're just getting a more annoying Jack Harrison. Especially with the hair. Can't say much because I'm losing my hair myself.
Yeah, I have a feeling that's where he'll go. For me personally, I think he'll go somewhere foreign like that. But yeah, look, again, it's another one that you potentially see. Concentrate on getting a main striker. Ismail is the answer with 8 goals last season for 40 million. Yeah, look, we've had to say on this as well, Dylan. They're saying 40 potentially. I think Fulham said 50, and I think Leeds were maximum saying go to 40. It obviously is a massive amount of money, and as always, guys, get your
massive gamble as well.
It is, Dylan, 110%. But I think there's a lot of potential in there. That's what I kind of look at and say if he could be given his chance in this Leeds team, could he potentially fulfill that? I think you're buying the potential rather than the finished article now, and it is a lot of money. I can't deny that. Like 40 million is massive for an unproven striker.
It's actually not even so much the stats. I think it's more the injury record. For me, If I'm being honest with you, at the end of the day, like 8 goals is 8 goals. The stats, it's just the injury record for 40 million. It's an awful lot of a gamble to make, and then you're more or less saying, "This is our star striker," and then he gets injured within the first 2 weeks, and you're going, "Oh God, here we go again," you know. And then you're reliant on my legend Pirro or Nemecha. You know, it's just.
I think Gassan for me as well, Dylan, would be one that I'd be definitely looking at as well from Nice. He'd be a player that looks big and strong and can bully defenders as well. But it's always going to be the question, can he take the step up to the Premier League? That's always going to be one. Bonford's Mount gets carrot and lounge. Oh my God. Shane Dalton says, "All right, lads, good night. Resting me 42-year-old legs. Night, Shane. Thanks for popping in, buddy. Do really appreciate it." We've got a super chat from Mr. P. Thanks very much, Mr. P. Paixao for a while we believed, but we had been twerking with Marseille before the Marseille move, and I think Leeds when you look back at it now, I think Leeds were kind of used a little bit, feel used and abused. We moved on, time for a number 9 and a number 10 perhaps, or even loan ones in. That's it as well, Dylan, isn't it? We spoke about that loan market could be where Leeds United flesh this squad a little bit as well. The loan market could be the way to go. We've seen it last season with Solomon. We could
no harm,
decent players in.
No harm whatsoever. And then who's to say, you know, like another legend like Solomon to pull off great moments like that, especially in the Premier League, potentially having to, you know, buy them as well. Like a loan's not a bad idea either. Like, but Mr. P, sound for the super chat. What a legend.
Yeah, class. Let's see what else we have here. Hijack Oscar Gok Steele to Ajax sign Harvey Elliott for a creative 9 and 10. Paixao will soon be forgotten about. Yeah, Harvey Elliott, an interesting one. Of obviously, again, I see social media again saying, you know, no way they wouldn't touch Harvey Elliott. I would, yeah, we'd definitely be all over. He'd be definitely a good player in the Premier League for us. Premier League winner, Champions League football. Definitely. Don't get a puncture. I hope not, buddy. That's the one thing I think me and Dylan are fearful of this cycle on Saturday is getting a puncture in, and we're looking forward to it. Blocking up all the traffic the whole way from Dundalk down to Dunbay, be a bit of crack. Robson says, "Smash it, like, please do that, lads." Look, we leave it there. Nearly an hour on the chat again. Thanks very much for everyone that popped in on this Monday afternoon. Look, don't get too downbeat about Paixao. I'm sure Leeds United will have more targets in. We'll keep a keen eye on it. Take a look out on our X as well. We're trying to do a lot of updates for you guys on X as well. We're really trying to bring up the whole brand of Only Leeds Bro. So again, as always, guys, thanks very much for supporting the channel. It does mean the absolute world to us. Before you leave, you don't mind, please slap a like on the video. It's completely free to do so, and it helps push it out there to other people to watch it. And of course, hit subscribe to the channel if you are enjoying it as well. Dylan, anything to say before we wrap it up and say goodnight to all these lovely people?
No, love yous all, and wish me luck on the cycle, lads, because I'm going to need it. I'm really going to need it. You know, pat on the back as well if it's going. Exactly.
We will be live on Friday. Same thing again at 8:30 as well. Before we do the cycle, we'll bring a bit more details about it. If that what you guys want, and we'll drop the link in the chat and all as well. If you just want to donate, it would be absolutely quality. Get plenty of Vaseline for the legs, lads.
I've none left.
We'll leave it there, guys. Thanks very much again for everyone popping in. Mind yourselves, mind each other, and we'll chat you all again very soon.